Today we're diving into a story that honestly feels like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie. But this is very, very real, and it's all happening right now about 400 kilometers straight up. It's got everything. 2 stranded astronauts, a brand new multi-billion-dollar spacecraft, and a rescue mission that is completely unprecedented.
So let's just get right to the biggest question on everyone's mind. Why are 2 veteran NASA astronauts, Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore, essentially stranded up on the International Space Station when they were supposed to have a perfectly good ride home?
You know, their mission was supposed to be short and sweet. The plan was simple. Take Boeing's new Starliner spacecraft for a spin, stay at the ISS for about 8 days, and then head right back home. Easy, right?
Well, that 8-day test flight has now ballooned into a potential 8-month marathon stay. And yeah, you heard that right. A change that drastic tells you that something has gone seriously wrong.
To really get how we ended up here, we've got to look at the spacecraft itself, the Boeing Starliner. Because a whole cascade of critical failures is what put this entire mission and its crew in jeopardy.
Okay, so let's get into the nuts and bolts of it. The Starliner's issues really boil down to 2 huge problems. First, a bunch of really concerning helium leaks. And second, failures in the very thrusters that the capsule needs to steer itself.
The trouble actually started before they even left the launch pad, with one helium leak found in the propulsion system. Then, after they got into orbit, 2 more leaks popped up. And then, believe it or not, after they docked with the space station, another 2 smaller leaks were found. That's 5 leaks in total, which is a pattern you absolutely do not want to see in space.
And if that wasn't bad enough, you've got the thruster issue. See, the Starliner has 28 of these little maneuvering thrusters. Well, during the approach to the space station, 5 of them just failed. Ground control worked some magic and got 4 of them back online, but 1 is still acting up, and that's a massive problem for a system that has to be perfect.
But here's the thing. These failures, they didn't exactly come out of nowhere. If you look back, the Starliner has a pretty troubled history that was, you could say, foreshadowing this whole situation.
Hindsight is 20/20, right? The warning signs were definitely there. Back in 2019, its very first uncrewed test failed to even reach the right orbit because of a software glitch. Then, in 2022, a second test had problems with, you guessed it, its thrusters and cooling systems. And now, here we are in 2024, and its first ever crewed flight is stranded.
Now this is where it gets really interesting, especially when you follow the money. NASA gave Boeing a contract for $4.2 billion to build the Starliner. That's a lot more than the $2.6 billion they gave to SpaceX for their Dragon capsule. But even with that bigger budget, Boeing delivered its capsule 7 years late, and the program is now a staggering $1.5 billion over budget.
So, with all these problems piling up, confidence in the Starliner was just plummeting. NASA and Boeing had to face a really tough reality, and it led to this pretty serious breakdown in trust and ultimately a decision nobody saw coming.
You can just feel the tension in this quote from NASA's Ken Bowersox. It's such a diplomatic way of saying, look, Boeing might think their ship is fine, but we're the ones responsible for these astronauts' lives, and we are not so sure.
And that really gets to the core of it, this huge difference of opinion. On August 7th, Boeing went public saying they still believed in their vehicle. But behind closed doors, NASA's assessment was way more serious. For them, there was just too much uncertainty to risk bringing the crew home in it.
And that all led to the final, absolutely stunning call. In what had to be a really tough meeting, NASA unanimously decided the Starliner was unsafe for the astronauts to fly back in. So now, Suni and Butch will hitch a ride home on a SpaceX Dragon capsule, and Boeing's multi-billion-dollar Starliner, it's going to fly back to Earth completely empty.
Okay, so the rescue plan is in place. But what does this actually mean for Suni and Butch? I mean, how do you even prepare to survive an unexpected, months-long stay in literally the most hostile environment humanity has ever explored?
The biggest enemy they face up there is the environment itself. Living in microgravity for a long time just wreaks havoc on the human body. Your muscles start to waste away, your bones lose density. It's a huge strain on your entire system.
So how do they fight back against that physical decay? With an absolutely grueling commitment. They have to do 2.5 hours of intense exercise every single day. It's the only thing that keeps their bodies from seriously deteriorating in space.
Thankfully, the International Space Station is basically a modern marvel. It's designed for this. It literally makes its own oxygen from recycled water, it gets regular resupply missions with food and essentials, and the crew can talk to their families back on Earth. And crucially, they're not up there alone. They're part of a larger crew, which has to be a huge comfort.
So, while the astronauts are thankfully safe, the fallout for Boeing is really just beginning. This whole incident puts the company's entire reputation as a top-tier aerospace leader under a massive microscope. And when you put the two programs side by side like this, the contrast is, well, it's pretty damning. SpaceX, with less money, delivered its capsule 4 years ago and has been flying missions like clockwork ever since. Boeing, with more money, delivered a vehicle that's not only late, but is now officially deemed untrustworthy. This mission was supposed to be a moment of triumph for Boeing, marking its big return to human spaceflight. Instead, it's just the latest chapter in a really worrying series of high-profile problems, and it leaves us all with a huge question. For a company whose entire brand is built on safety and reliability, what on earth or off it can Boeing possibly do now to regain our trust?